You're listening to Just 3 Clicks, and this is episode 15, where we're going to be talking about copy and a couple of other things. So I'm sat here today with Jamie.
Hey.
How's it going?
All right. Yeah, good.
You've not been on for a couple of weeks.
To be fair, because of launch, because I remember we were booked in to do this 2 weeks ago, and I just kept saying to Nindy, "You're gonna have to move it to next week. I can't. I've got this webinar." Then it was, "You're gonna have to move it to," and then I saw it today, and I was working on a webinar again before, and I was thinking, "Should we push it again?" I was thinking, "Nah, we need to get it done. It needs to be. We need to keep these going really."
Yeah, I think we've done a good job of keeping up with it, really. Because ordinarily, what would happen for anyone listening, like I think we've tried to start things like this, a lot of times, like
and you
the
get
YouTube
a few
channel.
out, yeah. Because you have that motivation at first, and then it becomes, you just forget.
It's hard because you don't have people to help you, but now that there's people around that can make it all kind of go somewhere, I think that's helped a lot. So
yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Nindy.
Yeah.
So cool. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of writing good copy, and a good and effective copy, and that's pretty much what we're going to go into. So let me turn that on mute. Sorry about that. So, all right. Well, before we jump into that, actually, because you've not obviously been on, and you mentioned that you were kind of busy with the launch. It would be good to get your thoughts on kind of like what went well, what went bad.
Yeah, no, I actually had a meeting with Katie, our head of customer experience, this morning, and I wanted to like kind of get a debrief from her on, what she saw on her side. Obviously, a lot of our staff, this is the first launch they've ever seen, so we're used to it.
Yeah.
And then I think there's been like some really good positives, and I wouldn't even call them negatives, but room for improvement, but in areas we wouldn't have seen before. So I'm mentioning before, and I was saying that positively, obviously the brand new Viddyoze is out, which is exciting. We've got amazing new features. All of that's like really, really positive, and now we have like more of a base to build off of and innovate even further than we've done now. And I mean, some of the features, as you know, we've waited for like years to even, and it isn't just waiting for, font override, it was not possible, and we've made that possible. Things like that are like amazing. Kind of reinvigorates you, in regards to the product again. But I was talking, they're not really negatives really, but I was saying, because our team's grown quite dramatically this year due to our growth, there's processes that have been put in place that now affect how a launch works. So the example I used was the sales pages which you were handling, and how previously we would have Vlad who would cover that, our head designer, and we literally could make a change instantly, and it was there, and you could see it instantly, and if there was an issue you could quickly change it. And then I was addressing the fact, you'll remember, with the login button that got put on the page, and basically that design change shouldn't have happened without your say so, because you kind of look over the pages and make sure, well, you work on them for weeks beforehand, sometimes months, to get them right. And when you're in a launch period of 4 to 5 days, and it's this short window where we have to maximize every eyeball, you can't afford for a page to have an error or something that doesn't quite work. So I was just talking about that, and how the reason that happened, it wasn't necessarily a negative or that someone had done something wrong. It was the fact that the process to change it and put that in place is totally different to what we'd done previously. So we've got some getting used to on that side of things. There's more of a system and a process in place to making changes to things like sales pages or the app, and you can't just go and change these things off the cuff, which we've done previously. And that we probably saw there. That's something we'd just be aware of next time, really. So,
it's just trying to build around it and understand the drawbacks of it.
Yeah, definitely.
How can we manage that next time? I mean, I discovered that at like 11 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, I know.
It was bad. I was in bed.
I was saying to, saying to Katie, and I remember that when you spotted that, and I'd seen it that late at night, and I thought, oh, it's cool. That'll, Vlad will pick that up or whatever. And then when I woke up in the morning, it's like 7:30, and I get the sales page up and I refresh it on my phone. It was still there, and I was like, no way, what's gone on there? So, and it was just the fact that the process had changed, and that affects conversions, doesn't it? Which we're going to, obviously, kind of ties into copy in a way. But that was something I learned from this launch. Like, whilst everything is positive, we've got this new product out, all them new features, which are really exciting. And again, the audience and our user base has reacted incredibly well to it. I think everyone's excited about what we've done. But some of the systems we had to go through to get the launch out there, we probably need some getting used to. There's need for improvement on some of those processes.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I just think it's all new. Like, the support team has grown massively in such a short space of time. That whole process of the business it's only really recent. So,
Dev as well, with all the new, new people in there, and everyone has their own. I mean, it's good because we've now got, and I mentioned to Katie as well, like, stability-wise, it's better than it has ever been. We don't have to worry about the app and everything working seamlessly. It's just I suppose the word is deployment, isn't it? Like, we've just had to get used to a few different processes on that side.
Yeah, 100%. So what about, like, post-launch now? So was it like 2 weeks now? What do you think? I mean, what have we been doing? Like, there's a couple of things you've been working on.
Yeah, I think launching, we've launched one new subscription in Template Club Plus. So our Template Club, for anyone that doesn't know, is our main subscription where you buy a license to Viddyoze. Template Club gives you access to all of our templates and a few other features. Yeah. Template Club Plus came about because we had a bigger subscription, which was agency, which again is a few $100s a month, and that subscription allows things like multi-rendering, so you can use a template and go and create another without waiting, which what everyone else does.
Yep.
Template Club Plus has that feature in it, although it's more limited than an agency level, but that was one feature that a lot of our users wanted, but it obviously costs us money to do that, so we have to charge more, and Template Club Plus was launched as a additional subscription to Template Club to allow users to multi-render if they want, and a couple of other things, but I think that's gone down really well. We launched that as an introductory offer that sold out rapid. Well, hundreds of users took that up within a very short period of time. So it's just about rolling that out fully now, publicly. But and then it's moving on. I know David's in a meeting now with some of our team regarding the roadmap, and we've got some exciting things coming next, haven't we? So it kind of doesn't stop rolling, does it?
Nah, like, we're pretty much now just rolling into, I know it's December and we should probably, there'll be a little period where we do kind of dial down our efforts, I guess, but because we're also going through an investment process, it's like, that's like taking up an immense amount of time. Like, this week's just like meetings, basically. Well, the next few weeks is just meetings, essentially. So
yeah, well, I was looking at my calendar yesterday, and was it yesterday? It's Wednesday today. Monday, I was looking at it, and I was thinking, right, what day this week can I have time to do a few tasks that I've needed to get on top of? And it's literally this morning was the only time. Then now we're obviously shooting this podcast, and then tomorrow and Friday it's stacked.
Nah, so that's it's been from my side. I think like, the launch was, everything went all right. Like, there's a lot of things we could have done better, but now, like, from my end, it's just like trying to get my head into the next thing, really. Like, I want to look at blocks, how we're going to roll that out, what is the product even going to be. I actually completely forgot that call was on now, because I probably would have liked to have been on that, but that's fine. But yeah, it's just trying to get an idea now of, like, what do we do next. Like, I think yesterday we were talking about launching it in April, which seems like too soon, really.
Yeah, I think it'll get pushed back a bit, but I suppose it depends, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think obviously they're having a meeting on the roadmap now, but I think there'll be a few more of those before we've nailed down how it's all going to roll out. But
yeah,
there's loads of stuff happening.
Cool. So that's kind of 2 week summary. I mean, it's been a good launch, but now it's like, let's look at what we're going to do later on. One of the things that we do a lot of when we do these launches is copy, and there's different types of copy that we concentrate on. Like, I look at, like, a sales page and I'll work with a copywriter to get that together, but then the stuff that you do that's completely different, where you need copy skills.
Yeah.
Like,
Webinars is one that springs to mind because you don't necessarily think of copy in a webinar, but it all is structured.
yeah,
Yeah.
emails
As well, yeah. I suppose, I mean, I don't really get involved in this much, in fact, at all anymore, but social, anything that goes, essentially anything that goes out is copy in some way, isn't it? So,
yeah, like the upsell paths in the app.
yeah,
So
how the banners are, and yeah.
if you click a button and then there's like an upsell in the app, like what does it say? How do you get someone to buy like with a sentence, basically?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because sometimes you've only got a sentence. It's like,
yeah, that's it. And there's certain changes I know we've done in the past. Well, I don't know if we're obviously going to cover some of this, but it's interesting to see how even switching just one or two words around can have a dramatic increase in how many people convert.
yeah, like, do you know what? It's interesting actually because I forgot this even happened, but because of the way that the development environment worked with this launch, like we weren't used to it, so we couldn't make changes really quickly, as you mentioned. And what we had on the initial page was a headline that I thought was kind of shit, basically.
It didn't read amazing, but
Yeah.
it was obviously...
It was just not super I just didn't feel like it was that strong. So what I worked with someone else, Nick, on our team to craft a new headline piece right before the launch. I think we had half an hour or something, and I was like, let's just change it. And then that was supposed to go live at 4:00 in the UK, but it didn't actually go live all the way until 5:30. Now, what's mad is we actually split tested the pages because we wanted to see which headline would work, but it just so happened that we didn't have the other page working, but we managed to do the split test for an hour and a half. So that original headline, the headline me and Nick crafted was 85% more. It converted 85% better than the original headline. So it just shows like it's just a sentence. It's literally one sentence. And it just changed so dramatically, which kind of pissed me off because it was like, if we had that at the start, we would have made more money. So, that's why it's just so important. That's why copy is just like, it's not just like, there's a reason copywriters charge so much money. And it's because it makes money literally if you do it the right way. But saying that, I'm not a copywriter. I don't think you would say you're a copywriter per se.
I wouldn't say it's, I'd say we've definitely both got the skill set.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, I definitely couldn't do it as a full-time, right, I'm going to sit down and write copy. I think I'd probably be a bit too one-dimensional with the way I would write it. I think I'd approach it the same way every time. But I know working with a really good copywriter, they will spend time to understand everything about what you're trying to sell and who you're trying to sell to before they even write anything.
Yeah.
Whereas I probably wouldn't have the patience to do that.
No. I think, I mean, there's a question here on like, do you have a background in writing? No. I don't know. Do you?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So, I mean, we both started in sales and that, so I've never done anything like that. But my experience of it has just been from, number one, reading shitloads of sales pages, like so many sales pages, and then just seeing what the pattern is.
Yeah.
That's how I've understood the structure. Is just like, right, headline, call to action, like the dear friend intro. Like, it's like
from the desk of Jamie Garside.
Like I just figured it out from there. And that was that. Like,
well, you would copy it, wouldn't you, in some ways?
Kind of, yeah.
So whoever invented that, and it was probably somebody like Dan Kennedy or someone, I don't know who invented that style, but that style would have been invented by someone, and then we've all followed that same direct response.
Who's the other one? Dan Kennedy?
Gary Halbert, is it?
J. Abraham? Yeah. Maybe.
I know that one of the copywriters that I was working with on the email stuff, I think he was a Gary Halbert student, I think, if I've got that name correct. And he approached it in a very similar way to what we have known to approach copy. Very direct response. And there's different types of copy. I mean, and again, not one size fits all, which is why I couldn't be a copywriter, because I don't have the patience to research and understand different audiences. But it's a very interesting thing. And I think with the way the world has gone now and it's all become digital, copy's become more important than ever before, really, hasn't it? Because people 100%. Are just consuming copy all day long.
I just think, like, if you're doing anything, if you're doing your own thing, you just have to have that skill.
Yeah.
It's like you can use it in so many different things, like emails, a sales page, a video.
Yeah.
Like I write video scripts based on like what I've just learned from copy.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the same. It's essentially the same thing.
It's the way it's structured as well. Like, random example, but this morning well, a couple of nights ago I came across I'm basically looking for some art for my house, so some stuff I can put on the walls, and I was thinking, so we've got these two lights in the lounge, and they're those picture lights, the ones that you stick on the wall and it shines the light down.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there right now, so I was saying, right, we need to get some really good pieces to put there, but I don't just want to go to a standard canvas creator site and go, right, let's just pick a New York skyline. I want to basically find something pretty interesting. So I was just looking around art galleries, and I came across an art gallery. Anybody who's into art in the world, or even the UK, may know who these are. I've only just come across them recently. They're called Maddox Gallery, and they're like an investment service for art. So I was then interested in that, because I was like, investing in art, I've not really thought about that. So, and there's a few artists that I kind of like in and around like the street sort of graffiti, because we both enjoy graffiti, the whole office is. So you have the artists like Banksy. So you kind of look at his artwork and think, that's really cool. And then I'm going off on a tangent now, but anyway, this Maddox Gallery had this. They sell art, and you can go and see the art and whatever. And then I saw this thing about, and again, it was copy that got me. It was, are you looking to invest in art? You can generate X amount of returns per year, as opposed to, like, I think it compared it to the FTSE. It was like FTSE, you could have generated a 7% return or 9% over the past 12 months, and with Maddox Gallery and our art investments, you could have generated I can't remember what the number was, but it was high. It was like 30-40%. So I was like, that's interesting. How does that work? Enter your name and email here. We'll send you a guide. So I thought, right, I'll do that. I did that a couple of nights ago. Anyway, this morning I remembered about it, and I thought, I'll have a quick look at that. And there was a little element. I mean, the PDF in itself is basically it's a sales funnel. So they've got this PDF on how they go about investing in art, but the PDF doesn't really say how they do it. There is bits of that, but what the majority of the PDF is why is art worth investing in? And they use examples, and they do use Banksy as an example, and there's a few others like up and coming artists and sculptors and whatever. And anyway, they had this page, and again, this is the first time I've ever even thought about investing in art. That's interesting. So I'm reading this page and it was a page about a collectible, and I don't know if you would call him a sculptor, but it's Kaws, Kaws, and people may have heard of it, and they're these little model figurines, and they're quite heavy in the collectible streetwear market. So a lot of like rappers, producers all buy these Kaws figurines, and they become really well collectible. And there was like a picture of that, and there was a thing about up and coming emerging artists.
Yeah.
But there was a thing in there that it's stuck in my mind now, where it's talking about how to invest and how to pick out these emerging artists, and it is exactly the same as what we've done in the past. So it's saying, if you can find emerging artists, this is where the money is at, because you can buy pieces for, say, a 3K painting, and then in 5 years' time or 2 years' time, it can be worth 15 grand, 20 grand. That's how Banksy started out with small emerging artists, then became well known. And it uses the Andy Warhol example of, like, you could literally pick up some of his pieces early on for nothing, and they're worth sometimes now millions. And anyway, what I'm getting to is part of the sales copy, how it's structured, and this is why it's really important how you structure stuff, is there was this little speech bubble, and so it went down, it had paragraphs of emerging artists, and then it had this speech bubble, and the speech bubble was almost, it wasn't a testimonial, but it was almost a, hey, you're wanting to make money, so we know where your head's at, you want to invest your money and make money, well, look at what's possible here. And it was a story about a couple called Dorothy, and I can't remember, it could be her, but Dorothy Vogel is what I remember, and they're an old couple I don't know if they're alive anymore, in New York, and all it was in this little speech bubble was, one was a librarian, one was a civil worker. They were on very minimal income, and they, over the course of their lifetime, they've built up an art collection worth hundreds of millions of dollars from that minimal income. So, and I went then and thought, oh, I want to find out. It didn't have anything else other than this speech bubble that said that. So I thought, oh, I'll go and check out who they are. And then I find out that these big art collectors, there's documentaries on them and everything. But I just thought, from a copy standpoint, what that's done is it's taken me on this journey through emerging artists, invest in emerging artists, and you'll make money. Oh, and if you think that if you're sat there now as someone who, you might think art's for millionaires, art's for rich people. Well, it isn't, because Dorothy, and if it is Herbert Vogel, who were a librarian, a civil worker on minimal wage, have amassed a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of art in their lifetime, because and that's what it's about. They invested in emerging artists. Like, they bought Picasso pieces early on and stuff like that.
How do they know?
I don't know how.
I mean, I know it's irrelevant to this thing, but how do they even know
what to buy?
Yeah.
Well, when I read into their story after on Wikipedia, I think this, and again, there might be art collectors listening to this who will know who I'm on about, and they'll know more than I know here, because I've literally just looked at it today. But from what I gathered was they used to attend painting classes themselves, and they said they've got a documentary on Prime. I think their documentary is on it about how they did it. But it says they just bought pieces they liked themselves. But they literally gave, at the end of their life, they gave away, I think, over $100 million worth of art to the National Gallery. Just donated it.
Mad.
But they're two people. But as far as copy goes, what that did, it's the same as what we did, what we've done in the past, and we do it on our sales pages now, where, hey, we've got this video software. You can make money with this video software. Check out what David Alexander's done, who's a well-known user of ours, who's done amazing things. And that's, they weren't doing it in the sense of, it wasn't a testimonial. It was just, look, if you sat there thinking it's for rich people, it isn't. Check out Dorothy Vogel and her husband, who amassed they say it's the greatest art collection ever amassed by someone. And they were on, a couple of $1,000s a month each wage, and lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York and stored all of this art under the bed. I
didn't even know this was I know people buy art.
Yeah,
but I didn't know you could invest.
Well, this is the thing, and this is how copy does it, because I knew, you obviously hear, there's people that invest in art, but you always assume it's a billionaire, and
I just thought it was like I'm buying it because it means something to me.
Yeah, and you watch Billions maybe, and Bobby Axelrod's got all this famous art, and that's what you think art collectors are about, but apparently not.
Mad, I'm going to have to look into that. That's interesting.
It's a good PDF, I'll send you it. It's just how it breaks it all down, it's interesting.
But
that's how copy can work.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point, isn't it? It's like, you can get sucked in, and it's just a good example of how copy works, isn't it? It's there to
it's exactly the same things we do, but it was in a totally different, I mean, it's art. I mean, we're video software, and it's the same techniques, but I suppose it's all about the story, isn't it? Because that's what it's about, and that's what.
Yeah, like, there's a point here about like tone of voice, and how important is it for people to understand, like, how important tone of voice and words actually are. Because when I look at websites, I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but if you look at like a website generally, like, it could just be one of your mates or something, and like, I don't know, they're selling like fucking shoes or something. I don't know, anything. Like, and you'll just see it and you'll be like, yeah, that's bad. Yeah. Like, you just know. Yeah. Like, I know someone that's, like, I don't want to say too much because they might hear this one day. I know someone that's got a website, like, I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, my feedback was just like, like, you're basically not saying anything on the site. Yeah. It's just like nonsense, basically. Like, they had like an about me and all of this stuff.
It's like the standard things that people think they need to get. And
yeah. And it's like, it doesn't really do the job. Like, for me, like, and again, like you said, there's different types of copy. And for me, the copy that I write is, I'm trying to sell something. Yeah. Basically, or I'm trying to get someone to do something, like click a button or subscribe or buy. Yeah. Like, and I think if you're a business owner now, especially now, you've got to invest into understanding like how that shit works, really, because you know it's just such an important skill. Like if you look at, I don't know, like people like PTs, for instance, like there's so many of them, and there's probably loads of them online now. The difference between one that's going to do really well and one that's just doing okay is probably the one that's got really good copy and has actually thought about how they get their message across. So yeah, like where would you even learn it? Like I don't.
What have you read any books? Because I suppose that's a good point where you say whatever business you're in now, this is something you need to understand and learn. People listening, who may not be into this and not even thought about it. I mean, what would you say? How could they learn? I think for me, if I give my answer on that first, I think when you're reading things such as like that art example, I'm taking a lesson out of that myself, that I think, we could structure some different things. We can do different things like they've done there.
Yeah.
So I suppose everything you read every day are things that you resonate with, sites that you use, products you've bought recently. If you're on Amazon, why did you buy if you've searched for a product, we're coming up to Christmas, you've bought a product for one of your children or your wife or your family member, why did you pick that product over the other 100 that were on that page? Like there must be something that, was it the way the image was it some form of copy, was it a testimonial you read? And I think thinking about why you buy certain things or resonate with things is probably where you should start, isn't it?
Another way is like just ripping it off. And I know that's bad, but it's like, look, if you're selling a completely different product, like just look at the headline and look at the copy and just change the words around and make it about your product. Like that's what I used to do.
No, definitely.
The first letter I ever wrote was a product about list building, and I was like, basically that product was one of the top selling products on the forum at the time. Can't remember who it was now, Bobby Walker or something. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just take that and I'll make it about video instead of list building. Yeah. And that's how I wrote the copy. Like that's how I started. I think
and I think you can see that as well. You mentioned the PTs. I'm sure if you've looked at multiple PT websites, you can see how they've all probably copied or followed one style. Yeah.
Pretty much.
But that's definitely a good starting point, and then you just have to pick out, a little elements that you think.
Yeah, like I know you've read it as well, but like Autoresponder Madness.
Very good. Very good.
Andre
Chaperon it is. Yeah.
Andre Chaperon. So Nindy maybe put that in the notes. That's a really good book.
I'd say that is the best training you could have on writing email copy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one other guy that's worth a mention, which is Ben Settle. I don't know any of his products offhand. I know the Autoresponder Madness I remember, but I know Ben Settle as well writes really good email copy. I used to read his emails all the time years ago. I've not read one recently because it's in a different email, but those two people, I think Autoresponder Madness for me is one of the best. It has to be the best training you could ever read or go through regarding email.
Yeah. And I think the good thing with that, right, is you could translate those skills, the email stuff, to other copy.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
Because he talks about like storytelling and like having a character and all of that, and I think you could do that on a sales page, on a normal sales page as well.
100%.
Another one that I really think is worthwhile is Webinar Pitch Secrets from Jason Fladlien.
Yep.
Jason Fladlien's a fucking like wizard, basically.
Yeah.
Just all around technical genius with marketing, but he's just such a good salesman, copywriter.
Well, I mean, I mentioned at the start about webinars and how I'll write the copy for webinars, and it's generally the structure for that webinar, and there's a lot that goes on behind it. Jason Fladlien's stuff is in all of my webinars. I mean, we've had calls with him. We've had time with him just to basically improve what we were doing.
Yeah.
And those skills that, we've picked up over, going back a couple of years when we had some of those calls, they still work now. The same structures, the same elements. Some of the things change and you do refresh some things, but the same structures and the way that things, I mean, like I say, the webinars that I'm doing now follow a very similar structure to back then, and that's influenced by some of the calls we had with him. And
I mean, those are the two books that I've personally, honestly, those are the only two books I've actually read on copy.
Yeah.
Everything else is just like copying stuff and
Yeah.
tweaking it. Like, but I think those two things are probably enough to give you a grasp of like
Yeah.
how you need to come across in copy.
Yeah.
And obviously, like Jason talks about like actually presenting on webinar and stuff as well, which it's not super relevant to writing copy, but it's still going to help you to understand how you need to come across, I think.
Yeah, it's all sales, isn't it? And it does all tie in, you know. I know, like, from webinars I would do it, I don't have the sales copy on the slide. It will be certain things in slides that I know I need to say certain things at those times. So, yeah, he helps with all of that as well.
Yeah. There's a question here on how important are words and writing well for what Viddyoze does.
I think anything that goes out publicly that people read, it needs to be written well, I think.
Even though it's like a heavily visual product. Like,
I mean, even down to, down to everything we do, it needs to be written really well. I mean,
let's say the sales page was just a video and a button. Do you think that would...
I think that we wouldn't have the same conversions. I mean, because some people, everybody likes to... Well, everyone consumes different information. I know some people prefer watching video, some people prefer reading. There is certain subjects that I am interested in outside of SaaS and software business and things we work on daily, but other subjects that certain ones I like to watch video about it and learn about them via video, and others I just prefer reading. I've like... There's just and the opposite of that as well is there's certain subjects I enjoy that I enjoy listening podcasts. And that's how I find it easiest to do.
With me, like if I'm buying something, I don't like watching videos. Like
no, because
like
you feel like it's going to take too long, doesn't it? That's the thing.
I just like to get through the words, and I'll look for the certain stuff that I know I'm interested in a product. It's like, I don't know, like a good example is, okay, like I buy quite a lot of like virtual instruments for like music studio stuff. Yeah. And you know, these things are fucking very complex. Like they do millions of different things. Yeah. But I'm always looking for like one or two things. Now there's all these things have videos on them, demos and stuff. But I just go and look for the specific stuff on the page that resonates with me. Yeah, yeah. And that's why like a video is not always, I mean, I know it's contradictory because we do video, but it's like it's not the only thing. And it's not necessarily always the best either. No. I think you've got to use it in conjunction.
What's the, your opinion on the music side of stuff? Because I know you're into that heavily. One site that looks to be big from my point of view, and I don't know much about it, but I see their ads all the time, is Splice, is it?
Oh, yeah.
And they use producers to, like, sell. So they might have, like, so being into hip-hop, they have, like, Southside from 808 Mafia, who do a lot of the new stuff for like Travis Scott and Gucci Mane and all of that, which is popular at the minute. And he's on one of the ads, so that's what piqued my interest at first. Then they have older producers as well. Scott Storch is one I've seen all the time as well. So what's their copy like? I've never actually clicked through to their website. I just see sometimes the videos. How would they sell?
I mean, I'll open it up here now. Nindy, it might be worth you connecting to this because actually Splice is a great source for music if you are making video. We have a Splice subscription for sound effects.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. But, you know, if you go to their main site, they've got a very traditional sales page, headline, where your music starts, sub-headline, royalty-free sounds, industry-leading software, endless inspiration, start creating with Splice. Call to action, try for free.
Well, that sub-headline there for me, the one thing that stood out for me is they've probably answered everybody's initial thoughts. Royalty-free is the first thing they say, because I know if you're producing music or you're using sounds or any sort of content that other people have created, the first thing you think is, can I use it?
Yeah.
So they are answering that with just initially.
And then the first thing you probably, as a user, might think is like, right, well, if they've got over 3 million sounds, they've got like, I think around about 2 or 3 million sounds on there, and it's like, okay, well, how do I even know what they are? And then so the second thing is, right, find your sound. That's the headline. Then it says preview and download millions of royalty-free samples. So it's like, all right, okay, so I can actually just preview it on the browser. And then it's like, okay, so when you make music, you've got loads of different software. You've got Fruity Loops and Ableton and reason, whatever. So then it will say stay in sync, and you can basically use these sounds with any.
So what do you
program.
have to subscribe? Is that, and then you can use
Yeah, so
anything
it's like,
on
you know, the smallest subscription is like $7 a month, and you can download 200 sounds
Right.
a month. It's a great, really good business model.
Now, with that as well, just thinking about that now while you're going through that, look at how that they've used the exact same technique as the art PDF that I read. The art PDF has used a story of, they've used that Dorothy Vogel as saying, look, this is what the biggest art collector in the world has done, and she was just like you reading this now, and you can do the same. The way they've used that exact technique is, rather than, and I don't know if they have it on the homepage, but they do it using the videos that I've seen. So, hey, you like Southside and his sounds, come and join us, you'll get to use the exact same things. You like Scott Storch's stuff, come and it's basically a budding producer is looking and thinking they want to be that next person.
It's just social proof, and
that's
that kind
just
of
shows that's probably one of the number one things, isn't it?
Yeah, and you scroll down, it's like, you know, our sounds get used in The Verge, Billboard, Wired, Complex, Variety. It's like, if you're a producer, you'll know all these things. Then it's like, here's what other creators are saying, and the creators that they've called out, they've got Andrew Huang. He's got like over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. You've got Kashmir, who's a really well-known like sound designer. So, you know, it's just people that you know can back up the product, basically. And that's what we do. Like, you go to the videos page and it's like, our product's being used by Vodafone, Tesla, Sony. So it's like instant, like, bang. Like, that's our proof. Now, someone listening might be like, well, I don't fucking have Sony using my products, so what would I do?
But then in that example, you can use that art example. That art example, Maddox Gallery are using a story about someone who's amassed an amazing collection. It wasn't them that helped them do it. They're just showing you this is what's possible.
Yeah.
So they've used it in a different way. So you can use other people's stories. Of course, you can't go and, you know, start plagiarizing stuff and taking things and saying that they've used your service. But, you know, if you're selling something and you know somebody out there who is well known or has done something incredible in the same industry, then you can you know, it's referencing, isn't it? As long as you put where you're referencing that from, you can use things in different ways.
Yeah, and I think, you know, some of the stuff we've gone through there is based on like a really traditional sales page format, and I think John Carlton has a really good program on like structures of sales pages, so you could check out John Carlton if you want to see more of the actual structure. But just go to our sales page and buy the product as well at the same time, and you can see like kind of how our copy follows a really simple structure. Like, you know, it points out really specific things, and if you go through it and actually ask yourself, why have we said this here, you'll just see it kind of as you're going through the page and compare it to other pages as well. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I mean, we're coming up pretty much to the end of this one, so, and we haven't gone through everything that Nindy kind of wanted us to, but he's actually put the products here: John Carlton's Simple Writing System and Andre Chaperon Autoresponder Madness. So there you go. So that will be in the link description here. Do you have any other tips, like on just copy generally, like what things you would kind of look out for? What would you kind of focus on if you were kind of brand new trying to do this?
I'd say I'd say the only thing is to just read lots, 100%, because that's when you start, especially reading lots of, from other people within your same industry or whatever. Anybody that, if you have a business and there's other businesses in your industry that are way in ahead of the pack, and there's businesses you would love to emulate them, reading their stuff's going to be really important. And then also taking lessons from other industries. So like Splice there, there's things they're doing that we could take into what we're doing and think about, right, well, look at how, you know, even running the ads, like, could we create something similar to that? I'd just say to be open-minded and not think that if you're a PT, you've got to only write copy as all the other PTs do, or if you're a software platform, you have to do it in this way. There's certain reasons why things are done in that way, and that's, you know, they're obviously successful ways, but I would be open-minded to trying new things. And that goes back to one of the things you originally said: split testing and trying new things should 100% be something you do. It's just quite a laborious thing for a lot of people to
Yeah,
think
we
about
only
doing.
just started doing
Yeah.
it, so
And we don't do it all the time. We should do it more.
yeah,
But we see the benefits from it. It just takes time to set that stuff up. That's what it is.
yeah.
But it's so important if you can put your mind to that.
Awesome. So, all right. Well, that's pretty much it for this one. That's our thoughts on copy. There are a lot more thoughts because it is a very deep and complicated subject. So, check out the resources that we've mentioned. Andre Chaperon, Autoresponder Madness is probably where I would actually start.
Yeah.
It's just a good book, man. Like David's read it as well. I know he has, and I know a lot of people from our original industry that we were in would pretty much swear by that book. I think. So yeah, cool. Be sure to follow us on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else, and make sure you tune in for the next episode, and we'll see you again next time.